Her golden eyes shone with tears as her claws trembled inches from my throat. "Please, Darius, don't let me kill you." This story is a direct follow-up to the fox girl teased me all night, until I grabbed her tail. If you haven't heard that one yet, I recommend starting there first, because this is where their story truly deepens. The winds of Thalros 9 carried dust and death in equal measure. We were soldiers trapped on a crumbling front, where rations spoiled, drones learned our tactics, and the nights were too long. Yet through the misery, one thing kept me alive: the fox girl who teased, fought, and now held my heart tighter than war ever could. But nothing on this wasteland stays safe for long. Dust never gave us a break. It worked its way into every seam of armor, into the rations, into the very air we breathed. But lately, it seemed to cling less to me and more to the way Kale's tail always brushed against my leg, as if reminding me I wasn't alone in the desert. We'd stopped pretending our closeness was just an accident. She didn't bother to slink back to her bunk at night anymore. Sometimes she sprawled across mine entirely, tail coiled around us like a barrier against the world. I caught the sidelong glances from squadmates, the raised brows from officers, but no one said a word outright. Not yet. Captain Arden was the only one who came close. During morning drills, he stalked past us, his sharp eyes cutting between Kale and me like a knife. "Holt. Vera. Funny thing, you two are always paired up these days." Kale smirked, ears flicking. "Teamwork, Captain? Isn't that what you wanted?" Arden grunted but didn't argue. He couldn't. Our patrol reports spoke for themselves. More sightings spotted, more ambushes survived, more drones destroyed than any other pair in the outpost. Whatever we were, it worked. That didn't stop the whispers. At mess, I heard Mara murmuring to another medic, "She's practically glued to him." The reply came with a low chuckle. "Maybe she likes the stubborn ones." Kale pretended not to hear, gnawing on a strip of dried meat. But her tail brushed mine under the table, a small rebellion in plain sight. When we were alone, though, the teasing softened. One night she sat cross-legged on the floor of our barracks, combing dust out of her tail with methodical strokes. The lamp overhead flickered, throwing shadows across her ears. "You humans hide everything behind straight lines and stiff shoulders," she said, not looking at me. "But I can feel you watching. Because you're muttering philosophy to your tail." I muttered back, setting my rifle aside. She smirked faintly. "I was wondering how long it would take before you said something." Then her voice dropped. "It's how we calm ourselves. Grooming. Reminds us of home." I sat forward, elbows on my knees. "You miss it?" Kale's hands stilled for a moment. Her ears angled back, then forward again. "Every day. But I'd rather be here than there." "Why?" She looked up then, gold eyes locking onto mine with that steady fire that had undone me weeks ago. "Because here I'm with you." My chest tightened, and I looked away, pretending to adjust the strap on my vest. She laughed softly, knowing she'd struck a nerve. The calm never lasted. 3 days later, recon sent us further into the flats than we'd gone in weeks. The horizon shimmered with heat, the ground cracked and lifeless. Kale moved like a shadow beside me, ears swiveling, every sense on alert. We found the wreckage by accident, a shredded convoy half buried in sand, metal twisted and blackened. Human crates scattered alongside vulpine ones, the insignias charred but still visible. Kale crouched low, tail stiff. "This wasn't drones. Look at the cuts. Plasma, not claws." I scanned the perimeter. "So raiders?" She shook her head. "No. Too clean. Too precise. Someone knew exactly where to hit." Before I could reply, the sand shifted underfoot. A ripple spread outward, silent but fast. Kale shoved me aside as a burrower erupted from below, its steel jaws snapping shut where my leg had been. She vaulted over it with that impossible grace, blade igniting in her hand. I fired into its core while she slashed deep into its joints, sparks flying. The machine convulsed once, twice, then collapsed into a smoking ruin. Kale landed in a crouch, chest heaving, dust streaking her cheeks. "That was no random ambush either," They're adapting. The words chilled me more than the fight itself. She was right. Drones had always been brutal, but never this cunning. Something was learning from us. We reported back, but Arden only frowned. So the machines are evolving. What else is new? We'll tighten patrols. Kale's ears pinned back in frustration, but she didn't argue. Later that night, as we sat in our quarters, she muttered, "They don't see it. But I do. They're hunting differently now. And they're hunting us." Her tail slid across my boot, coiling loosely. "If they ever take me, Holt, you better drag me back." I looked at her sharply. "That's not happening." She smirked, but her eyes held no mischief. "Promise?" "I promise." Her tail tightened around my ankle, like she was holding me to it. The following week proved her right. On a dusk patrol, we were ambushed again. This time, the drones didn't aim for the squad, they aimed for Kale. They ignored me until I fired, then swarmed toward her flank like a pack of predators singling out prey. We fought them off, but not without cost. One caught her across the arm before I blew it apart, and the sight of her blood spattered across the dust made something primal in me snap. I tore into the machines with a fury that left even Lurox staring afterward. When it was over, Kale sat against the ridge, cradling her injured arm, ears flattened. I crouched beside her, checking the wound. "You're reckless," I growled, voice shaking despite myself. She smiled weakly, baring sharp teeth. "And you're protective. We make quite the pair." Her tail brushed against my knee as I bandaged her arm. Even bleeding, even exhausted, she refused to let the connection drop. And as I tied the cloth tight, I realized something chilling. The enemy knew exactly how much she meant to me. That night I couldn't sleep. The outposts creaked around us, the desert wind howling through gaps in the prefab walls. Kale dozed restlessly in her bunk, tail twitching with every dream. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, knowing the truth I didn't want to admit. This wasn't just war anymore. It was personal. The next morning, Captain Arden handed us orders with that clipped tone that never allowed room for argument. "Recon sweep, Southern Flats. 2-man team." His gaze lingered on Kale and me just long enough to make the meaning clear. "Don't get clever. Don't get lost." Kale grinned like it was a challenge. "We'll try not to make it too exciting, Captain." Arden's frown deepened, but he let us go. The flats stretched out endless and pale under a white sun that seemed to bleach color out of everything. The air shimmered in waves, heat rising off cracked earth that hadn't seen water in centuries. We trudged side by side, rifles slung, packs heavy. Kale was quieter than usual, which was saying something. Normally she filled the silence with humming or snide commentary about my posture. Today, her ears flicked constantly, eyes scanning every ripple in the distance. "You're tense," I said finally. She didn't look at me. "They're changing tactics. I can feel it. Machines don't think. They calculate." "Exactly," she snapped, golden eyes flashing. "And the calculations say I'm the weak point. They'll come for me again." Her tail swished low, a restless motion she couldn't seem to stop. I slowed my pace until she met my eyes. "You're not weak. And they'll have to go through me first." For a moment, her ears tilted forward, softening her expression. "You'd really throw yourself in front of them?" I didn't answer with words. I just kept walking, knowing she already had the truth. By dusk, we'd reached the ruins of an abandoned survey station, half buried in sand, its comms tower leaning like a broken spear. We set camp inside the shell of a storage bay, our glow lamps throwing pale light across rusted walls. Kale unpacked rations while I checked our perimeter beacons. The hum of their activation faded into the stillness of the desert. "Quiet," Kale muttered, biting into dried fruit. "Too quiet." I sat across from her, stretching my legs. "You always say that. And I'm always right." She flicked a crumb at me, tail swaying lazily. "Tell me something, soldier boy. Before the draft, what did you want?" The question caught me off guard. I stared at her, caught between irritation and something deeper. "Does it matter?" "Of course it matters." Her ears perked. I told you about sapphire forests and aurora skies. You owe me. I hesitated, then sighed. A farm. My family grew grain. I thought I'd take it over someday. Cale blinked, then let out a soft laugh. You. A farmer? Is it that hard to believe? She tilted her head, studying me. You've got the patience. The stubbornness. But you'd have hated it. I frowned. Why? Because you don't just endure, Darius. You fight. Even when you shouldn't. Her smile turned faintly wistful. That's why I. She trailed off, shaking her head. Why you what? I pressed. Her tail coiled tighter around her knees. Never mind. The silence stretched between us, heavier than the desert air. The attack came just before dawn. Beacons shrieked as shapes burst from the sand, sleeker this time, faster. Not the lumbering burrows we'd faced before, but predators with segmented limbs and jagged mandibles. Their eyes burned red as they circled the station. Cale was already moving, plasma blade flashing alive in her hand. Told you it was too quiet. I raised my rifle and dropped the first one that lunged through the doorway, its head exploding in sparks. Cale darted forward, a blur of ears and tail, slicing another clean in half before it could pin me. But there were too many. They swarmed from every angle, hammering against rusted walls, climbing the tower, pouring through gaps. I fired until the rifle overheated, then swung it like a club. Cale danced among them, slashing, spinning, her laughter wild even in the chaos. Then one caught her ankle. She went down hard, dust exploding around her. The drone reared back, mandibles snapping, until I slammed into it, blade tearing through its core. Sparks showered across her, close enough to scorch her armor. Stay up, Cale. I barked, hauling her to her feet. Don't yell at me, she snapped, but her grin was sharp. You sound worried. I am. She faltered, just for a breath, before spinning back into the fight with renewed fury. We held the station until dawn's light turned the desert white again. The last drone collapsed with a screech of grinding metal, its body smoldering in the sand. Cale leaned against a beam, chest heaving, dust streaked across her face. They were faster, she muttered. Sharper. Like they'd practiced for us. I checked my rifle, jaw tight. They're learning. Her ears flicked toward me, then flattened. Then we'll have to learn faster. We didn't talk much on the way back. Cale walked ahead, her tail dragging faint lines in the sand. When we finally saw the outpost walls, she stopped short, staring at them with an expression I couldn't read. You humans think war is about numbers. About winning one more battle than you lose. She turned, her eyes glinting like molten gold. For us, it's about outlasting the storm. And I don't know if this one can be outlasted. You're saying we can't win? I'm saying the enemy's not after victory. She stepped closer, tail brushing lightly against my boot. It's after us. The words sent a chill through me deeper than the desert night ever could. Words spread fast. By the time we staggered into the outpost, armor scorched and weapons scorched nearly to slag, half the barracks already knew what we'd faced. The machines weren't just attacking anymore, they were hunting. That night, while the medics checked Cale's ankle and strapped my shoulder, whispers rippled through the mess. They target the Vulpine. Maybe they've cracked her neural signals. Maybe she's compromised. Cale ignored it all, tossing her braid over one shoulder, ears angled in open defiance. But I saw the way her tail stayed close, wrapped around her thigh instead of flicking with amusement. It didn't take long for someone to voice it outright. The rival came at us in the training yard, Sergeant Lurux's second, a foxwoman with dark ears tipped in white, eyes as cold as glass. She was the opposite of Cale in every way, precise, formal, no wasted movement, no wasted words. You endanger us all, she said, stepping into our path. Cale rolled her eyes. Nice to see you too, Vera. This isn't a joke. Vera's gaze cut toward me, dismissive and sharp. The machines lock onto you because you've forgotten your role. You flaunt closeness with a human as if tradition doesn't bind you. It makes you predictable. Vulnerable. Kale's grin was all teeth. Predictable enough to survive 3 ambushes while others didn't? Must sting. Vera's ears twitched, but her voice stayed cold. Keep playing at mischief, and you'll get him killed. The words landed heavier than she intended. Kale's smile faltered, tail flicking low. I stepped forward before she could answer. He's alive because of her, I said flatly. And so am I. Vera's eyes narrowed. Humans always think loyalty is enough. Out here it isn't. Out here, weakness kills squads. Kale bristled, ears forward, tail lashing behind her. Say that again. But Vera turned, walking away without another word. The silence she left behind clung to Kale like dust. That night, Kale sprawled across her bunk without the usual chatter. She stared at the ceiling, tail twitching with restless energy. She's wrong, I said quietly. Is she? Kale muttered. Every attack, they come for me first. You think that's coincidence? They come for you because you're sharp. Because you're dangerous. Her laugh was humorless. Or because I've become their test subject. Like Vera said, predictable. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. If they've learned your patterns, then we change them. Together. Her gaze flicked toward me, amber eyes uncertain. You'd really stake your life on that? I already have. For a moment, silence stretched between us. Then she sat up slowly, tail brushing the floor, voice low. Careful, soldier boy. Say things like that, and I might start believing you mean it. The next week was a blur of drills and exhaustion. Supplies arrived late, half spoiled, forcing us onto lean rations. Patrols doubled as the AI pushed harder against the perimeter. Even the veterans looked worn thin, their jokes brittle, their eyes rimmed with fatigue. Kale fought harder than anyone, her laughter sharper, her strikes more daring. But when the battles ended, she sat too still, ears flattened, tail curled close. I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking, some unspoken weight shadowing her eyes. During one dusk patrol, the ambush came swift and brutal. Sleeker drones, tighter formation. They came straight for Kale, ignoring the rest of us until she was pinned against a ridge. She slashed free, but not before one scored across her arm. I reached her in seconds, tearing the machine off her, my rifle muzzle burning against its core until it fell apart in sparks. Kale hissed through clenched teeth, gripping her arm. Told you. They're after me. Then they'll have to go through me every time. I snapped, forcing her to sit while I bound the wound. She stared at me, golden eyes burning through the dust. You don't get it, Holt. They're adapting faster than we are. And if you stay close to me, you'll be next. Good, I said. Let them come. Her ears flicked, as though I'd struck her with words alone. She didn't reply. Back at base, whispers turned into tension. Humans eyed Vulpines with suspicion. Vulpines muttered about humans slowing them down. A fight broke out in the mess, trays scattering, fists flying until Arden shut it down with threats of punishment. But the crack was there. We all felt it. That night, Kale sat on the floor, tail wrapped tight, ears pressed back. She didn't tease. She didn't poke me awake. She just stared at her claws as though the answers might be written there. When I finally broke the silence, my voice sounded raw even to me. You're pulling away. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. Because I have to. If I get you killed. You won't. You don't know that. Her tail thumped the floor, frustrated. What happens when they finally succeed? When they drag me off, and you follow, and neither of us comes back? Then at least we fall together. Her ears tilted forward, disbelief flashing across her face. You'd choose that? Yes. For once, Kale had no quick remark. No sharp grin. She just stared, tail trembling before curling close again. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You're a fool, soldier boy. Maybe. But I'm your fool. Her ears flicked, betraying the smallest twitch of warmth. But her eyes carried the weight of fear I'd never seen in her before. 2 days later, the walls of Thalros 9 shook under the first strike of a Hunter-class assault. The storm we'd been dreading had arrived. The assault didn't come all at once. It crept in like a sickness, spreading through every corner of Thalrose 9. Supply shipments thinned to scraps. Rations arrived moldy, armor repairs went unfinished, and the medics were down to rationing bandages. The desert never gave us much, but now it felt like it was taking more than we could spare. Soldiers muttered in corners, voices low and bitter. Vulpines blamed humans for poor planning. Humans muttered that the foxes were drawing too much enemy fire. It was the kind of slow fracture no captain could bark away. Kale stopped laughing. She still fought like a blade, still prowled the perimeter with ears high and tail sharp. But in the barracks, the silence grew louder. No humming. No paw prints scratched into my reports. No tail coiling across my boot. One night, I found her sitting outside on the perimeter wall, the desert wind whipping her braid against her shoulder. She didn't turn when I sat down beside her. "You've been quiet," I said. Her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon, where the sand blurred into starlight. "Because I'm thinking." Dangerous habit. That earned me half a smile, but it faded quick. "You saw how they focused on me last patrol. They won't stop. They'll keep coming until they break me, or until they break you trying to protect me. Then let them try." She turned her head sharply, ears angled back. "Don't you get it? I don't want to watch you die because of me." "You won't," I said flatly. "You don't know that." Her tail lashed, restless against the stone. "If I pull back, if I stop being near you, they'll stop aiming so hard. Maybe they'll lose the scent." I leaned forward, meeting her glare with my own. "So your plan is to abandon the only thing keeping this hell bearable? To make both of us miserable so the machines have less reason to fight harder?" Her ears twitched. "It's survival." "No. It's surrender." The words hung between us, heavy as stone. Kale looked away first, golden eyes burning against the horizon. "You're too stubborn," she muttered. "Occupational hazard." She didn't laugh. Her tail curled tight around her knees, a barrier I couldn't cross. The following days only drove the wedge deeper. Kale kept her distance on patrol, walking a pace ahead, never letting her tail brush against me. In the barracks she turned her back, claiming exhaustion. It felt like fighting shadows. Every attempt I made to reach her, she slipped further away. Even Captain Arden noticed. During a briefing he stopped mid-sentence, squinting at the two of us. "If there's something compromising squad cohesion, fix it before the next patrol." Kale only dipped her head, voice clipped. "Yes, Captain." But later, when we were alone, I caught the tremor in her hands as she cleaned her blade. She wasn't just pulling away, she was terrified. The breaking point came during another ambush. Drones hit the west ridge, sleek forms cutting through dust like blades. Kale surged forward recklessly, blades sparking as she tore into them. Too reckless. One slipped past her guard, claws raking her flank. She staggered, ears flattening, tail whipping wild. I was at her side in a heartbeat, rifle spitting fire until the drone dropped in a smoking heap. "Fall back!" I shouted. She shook me off, baring her teeth. "I don't need you saving me!" The words hit harder than the drones ever could. I grabbed her arm, forcing her to meet my eyes even as the battle raged around us. "You don't get to push me out, Kale. Not out here. Not ever." Her breath came ragged, golden eyes blazing. For a moment, I thought she'd strike me herself. Then she wrenched free, spinning back into the fight with a scream that was half fury, half despair. We survived. Barely. Back in the barracks, Kale sat against the wall, armor cracked, blood soaking the bandages at her side. I stood over her, fists clenched. "You're trying to get yourself killed." She glared up at me, ears pinned. "Better me than you." I crouched, grabbing her tail before she could recoil. She froze, eyes wide, tail trembling in my grip. "I don't care what they come for," I said, voice low and steady. "They want you. They'll have to go through me. They want me? Then you'll be at my side. That's the deal." Her throat worked as if she was swallowing words she couldn't say. For a long moment, silence wrapped around us, broken only by the hum of failing lights. Then, softly, she whispered, "You really would fall with me?" "Yes." Her tail shifted, not pulling free but curling slowly around my wrist, warm and deliberate. She looked away, ears burning, but the message was clear, she couldn't let go either. 2 nights later, the alarms wailed across Thalrose 9. Walls shook. Lights flared red. The Hunter-class AI had come to tear the outpost apart. The alarm screamed like a living thing, rattling metal supports and jolting every soldier from half-sleep. I was already on my feet when the barracks door slammed open and Arden's voice cut through the chaos. "All squads to the wall! Move!" Cale was beside me, blade in hand, ears pricked sharp. No teasing smile this time, no sly comment, only focus, as keen as I'd ever seen it. Her tail lashed once, then stilled, coiling tight as though bracing for the storm. We spilled into the yard with the others. The horizon glowed red with eyes. Dozens, no, hundreds, of drones advanced across the flats, their movements disturbingly uniform. No scattered rush, no chaotic scramble. They came in ranks, step for step, as though some unseen commander pulled the strings. "The Hunters driving them," Cale muttered, voice taut. Arden barked orders. "Turrets online! Focus fire at the front! Keep them off the wall!" The first wave struck like a tide. Crawlers hurled themselves against the barricades, claws screeching over steel. Flyers swooped in tight arcs, spitting plasma down into the yard. Gunfire thundered from every direction, lighting the night with white-hot fury. Cale vaulted onto the ramparts with impossible agility, blade carving arcs of light. I followed, rifle barking, dropping drones as fast as I could line them up. She moved like fire, grace and destruction in one. But every time I turned, there were more. "They're not testing us anymore," she shouted over the din. "They're breaking us. Then we hold until they can't." I snapped back. We fought shoulder to shoulder, the line bending but not breaking. Sparks rained. Men screamed. Vulpines leapt into the fray, tails snapping as they struck with speed no human could match. But still the tide rose. At the height of the battle, the walls shuddered. A massive shape tore through the smoke, towering, multi-limbed, its head bristling with antennae that pulsed with eerie light. The Hunter. Its voice came not as sound, but as vibration, echoing through the walls, through our bones, through the very air. Kilenia Vera. Cale froze mid-strike, ears flattening. Her tail bristled, curling protectively. The machine spoke again, louder, more insistent. "You cannot hide. You are signal. You are pattern. You belong to me." "Ignore it!" I shouted, grabbing her arm. "It's trying to break you." She shook me off, eyes blazing with something between fury and fear. "It knows my name." The Hunter's antennae flared, and drones surged toward our section of wall. They climbed in coordinated waves, clawing and leaping, ignoring other targets. All of them converged on Cale. We cut them down, side by side. But every drone that fell seemed to make room for 2 more. The Hunter moved closer, its bulk blotting out the starlight, each step shaking the ground. Cale's strikes grew more desperate, her breathing harsh. "They'll drag me off if they can. Not while I'm here." I dropped another drone with a precise shot, then another, reloading with hands that shook only from adrenaline. The Hunter's voice reverberated again, mocking. "Human. Your resistance is inefficient. Release the fox. Survive." "Not a chance," I growled, firing straight into its glowing sensor. The round sparked uselessly off reinforced plating. Cale leapt past me, slashing into a drone that had nearly scaled the parapet. "You hear that?" She snarled at the machine, fangs bared. "I'm not yours!" Her defiance brought us no mercy. The Hunter raised one massive limb, slamming it against the wall. Steel cracked, men toppled, alarms wailed louder. "Fall back!" Arden roared. "Secondary barricade!" But Cale didn't move. She braced, ears flat, tail lashing as more drones swarmed toward her. I grabbed her by the shoulders, forcing her to face me. Dust and fire lit her golden eyes, fierce but trembling at the edges. Don't give it what it wants. Stay with me. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd argue. Then her tail flicked once, brushing against my leg, a small anchor in the storm. Fine, she rasped. But if we fall together. We fought our way down from the collapsing wall, covering each other step for step. Cale's blade hummed, cutting through metal and smoke. My rifle sang until the barrel glowed. The hunter's bulk loomed ever closer, drones pouring around its feet like a living flood. By the time we reached the yard, the outpost was half in ruins. Fires licked the walls, soldiers dragged the wounded through smoke, Arden bellowed himself hoarse trying to hold the line. And still, the hunter's voice crawled through the air. Kilenia! Pattern detected. Submit. Cale spat into the dirt, blade raised. Never! Her defiance sent a spark through the yard. Soldiers rallied, Volpines howled their war cries, and for a moment, just a moment, the tide slowed. But the hunter was not finished. Its antennae blazed brighter, and the machine surged anew, striking with terrifying precision. Cale staggered under the pressure, her strikes slowing, her tail lashing wildly. I caught her arm, steadying her. We'll find a way to end it. Together. She met my gaze, sweat and dust streaking her face, and for once she didn't smirk or tease. She just nodded. That night, the outpost didn't sleep. Fires burned in shattered towers, the wounded groaned in makeshift cots, and the hunter's shadow lingered just beyond the walls. We had survived the first assault, but only barely. And everyone knew the next would finish us. The outpost was broken but not dead. Fires smoldered in collapsed walls, medics worked without pause, and every soldier looked over their shoulder at shadows that weren't there. We'd beaten back the hunter's second assault, but no one believed it was gone. Cale sat in the infirmary corner, her claws curled into her knees, eyes staring at nothing. She hadn't spoken since the battle. Not until the tremor started. It hit her in the middle of a medic's check. One moment she was still, the next her body jerked, arms snapping taut like a puppet on strings. She gasped, ears flattening, golden eyes wide with terror as her hand shot out, claws stopping inches from the medic's throat. I grabbed her, forcing her arm down. She shook violently in my grip, sobbing. It's still inside me. Even now. The medic backed away, pale. Around us, soldiers whispered. Words like compromised and liability slipped through the air. Captain Arden arrived, his jaw tight, his voice colder than steel. She's not safe to keep here. If the hunter can turn her against us from half a desert away, then she's a weapon waiting to be used. We send her to high command for containment, now. Cale flinched, ears pinned, tail curling desperately around her legs. Her voice cracked. Containment? You mean a cage? Arden didn't deny it. I stepped forward, blocking her from his gaze. That's not happening. Arden's eyes bored into mine. Then give me an alternative, Holt. Because unless that core is destroyed, she'll never be free of it, and will never survive another assault. Silence crashed over the room. I felt Cale's claws dig into my arm, not in attack but in fear. I squared my shoulders. Then we take out the nest. Tonight. Arden's brow furrowed. You'd volunteer? Knowing she could turn on you? She's not theirs, I said firmly. She never will be. Behind me, Cale whispered. You fool. But her tail brushed against my boot, trembling, and I knew she'd go through with it. Arden gave a short nod. Strike team forms in 1 hour. Holt, Vera, your point. The desert seemed even emptier that night, as if the world itself held its breath. 20 of us moved in silence across the flats, a mix of humans and Volpines, every step crunching against cracked stone. At the ridge, we saw it, the hunter's nest. Half buried, half alive, its metal shell pulsed faint red like veins under skin. The closer we came, the stronger the vibrations in the ground, as if the desert itself beat to its rhythm. Cale walked at my side, her ears twitching restlessly, her jaw tight. Just before we breached the outer shell, she leaned close. Her whisper was raw, stripped of bravado. If it takes me again, don't hesitate. I gripped her hand briefly, steady and sure. I'll stop it. Whatever it takes. Her golden eyes met mine, fierce and desperate. Don't let me kill you, Darius. I won't, I promised. Charges ripped open the nest's walls, and we surged inside. The air was thick, metallic, pulsing with faint red light. Antennae coiled down from the ceiling like veins, twitching as if they tasted our presence. Drones poured out of alcoves, shrieking metal and sparks. Kale was fury beside me, her plasma blade a storm of light. I covered her flank, rifle barking until the barrel glowed. We moved deeper with the team, step by step, toward the core chamber where the vibrations grew so strong my teeth rattled. And then the hunter's voice came. Kilenia Vera? You cannot deny function. You are mine. Kale staggered mid-stride, claws scraping against the wall. Her tail lashed violently before snapping tight around her waist. Not now, she snarled, shaking her head. Not. Her body seized. Kale! I shouted, reaching for her. She turned on me, eyes wide and wet with horror even as her claws swung toward my throat. I barely blocked the strike with my rifle. Sparks flew, her claws carving deep gouges into the barrel. She pressed forward, teeth bared, every ounce of her strength turned against me. Fight it! I grunted, straining against her. Her voice tore out, raw and broken. I can't, Darius, I can't. The hunter's tone drowned her out. Vector aligned. Terminate human. Kale roared, lunging again. I ducked, her claws slicing sparks from the wall inches from my face. I couldn't fight her, not without hurting her, but if I didn't, she'd kill me before I reached the core. Stay with me! I shouted, parrying another strike. It's not you! It's never you! Her eyes shone through the haze, tears cutting tracks down her dust-streaked face. Please stop me! Behind her, the core chamber glowed, a massive construct of steel and light, pulsing in rhythm with the hunter's voice. Antennae spread outward like a web, controlling every drone, every movement, controlling Kale. I made my choice. With a surge of strength, I shoved her back just far enough to break free. She struck again, claws grazing my armor, tearing into flesh beneath. Pain flared white-hot, but I didn't stop. I sprinted for the core, every step echoing like a drumbeat. Kale's scream tore through the chamber. Darius, don't leave me! I glanced back, and saw her, body twisting against the hunter's will, tears streaming as she stalked toward me, claws dripping. The hunter's command boomed, kill. Complete the pattern. Kale lunged. I spun, rifle raised, and fired not at her, but at the core. Rounds slammed into glowing steel. Sparks exploded, light flared blinding. The hunter's voice cracked into static, then roared in fury. Kale's claws reached me, pressed against my chest, enough to draw blood, then stopped, trembling. Her entire body convulsed, caught between command and release. Finish it! She screamed. With a final shot, the core erupted. The chamber exploded in light and shrapnel. The hunter's scream cut through metal and flesh alike, then dissolved into silence. Drones collapsed where they stood, limbs twitching uselessly. Kale dropped to her knees, sobbing. Her claws retracted, hands clutching her head as if to hold herself together. I almost killed you! I staggered, blood seeping through my armor, and fell beside her. I caught her shoulders, forcing her to look at me. You didn't. You fought it. You came back. Her eyes blazed with anguish. You don't understand, I felt it. Every strike. Every time it made me move against you. I was a weapon in its hands and I couldn't stop. I pulled her into me, ignoring the pain in my side. She shook against my chest, her tail curling tight, desperate. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry, soldier boy. You don't have to be. I whispered into her hair. You're free. That's what matters. Her arms wrapped around me, claws trembling but gentle. If you died, if I'd done it, I couldn't. Her words broke into another sob. I held her tighter, steady against her storm. You didn't lose me. You never will. For a long moment, the two of us knelt in the ruins of the Hunter's Core, the desert's silence pressing close around us. And in her tears I felt something stronger than despair, relief, fragile and real. She was hers again. And she was mine. The infirmary smelled of antiseptic and smoke, the kind that clung to you even after scrubbing. I lay on a cot while medics worked over my side, bandaging the gashes Kale's claws had left when the hunter bent her body against her will. Every sting of the antiseptic reminded me she'd been forced to strike at me, and every glance toward her told me she hadn't forgiven herself. Kale stood a pace away, arms wrapped around her middle, tail coiled so tight it trembled. Her ears flicked with every hiss I made as the medics cleaned the wound. She hadn't spoken since we left the core chamber. Her eyes never left me. Finally, when the medics stepped aside, she came closer, her voice low and unsteady. "You should hate me. I hurt you." I shifted, propping myself up on one elbow despite the burn in my ribs. "You didn't." "The hunter did." Her gaze dropped. "It was my hands. My claws." "Yeah," I admitted with a faint smile. "And I'll give you this, you fight dirty. If I hadn't been quicker, you might have won." Kale blinked at me, ears twitching in disbelief. Then her tail flicked, betraying the faintest shake of laughter. "You're making jokes? Someone has to. You'd be unbearable if I let you win the argument too." She gave me a long look, golden eyes caught between guilt and reluctant warmth. Finally, a small smile curved her lips despite herself. "You're too stubborn." I reached out, brushing the back of my fingers against her arm, then sliding my hand up to stroke her shoulder gently. "That's what you like about me." Her ears flushed red, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned closer, curling onto the cot beside me. Her head rested against my chest, tail sliding across my waist in a loose coil. For a moment, all the noise of the infirmary faded, the groans of the wounded, the shuffle of boots, and there was only her warmth pressed against me. "Tell me it's over," she whispered. "It's over," I murmured, running a hand through her hair, careful of the dust and grit tangled in it. "The hunter's gone. You're free." Her body loosened, some of the trembling easing. She burrowed closer, snuggling against me like she wanted to vanish inside my steadiness. I closed my eyes, letting myself breathe her in, sweat, smoke, and something faintly wild, like the forest she once described. The door creaked open. Kale jerked upright, ears springing high, tail snapping back behind her. Captain Arden stood in the doorway, eyes flicking from her flushed face to my hand still half raised from stroking her hair. He cleared his throat, gaze sliding away. "Should I come back?" Kale's ears flattened in embarrassment. "It's fine." I sighed, adjusting the blanket over my bandaged side. "Might as well. What's the news?" Arden stepped in, arms crossed, voice gruff but edged with something heavier than his usual bark. "Command has already received the report. They know what you did in the core chamber. They're impressed. Hell, they're calling it the only successful kill of a Hunter-class AI to date." Kale's ears perked slightly, but her tail stayed wrapped around her knees. "But..." Arden exhaled through his nose. "But they also know about the control. About what happened to you." His gaze softened, almost apologetic. "They consider you compromised. A liability." Kale stiffened, jaw clenching. "They want you transferred back to your Vulpine division," Arden went on. "Effective immediately, once you're cleared by medics." The silence between us was sharp. Kale's tail coiled tighter, her ears folding flat. My hand closed into a fist on the blanket. But when I looked up, Arden's eyes held the kind of weight that said fighting him here would do nothing. I forced the words out steady. "We understand." Kale echoed me quietly, though her voice trembled. "We understand." Arden nodded, turning toward the door. At the threshold, he paused, glancing back. "For what it's worth," I argued. "Told them you were worth more together than apart. They didn't listen." Kale's ears twitched, eyes widening. "You did?" Arden gave a short nod. "I know I'm a bastard most days, but I'm not blind. You two kept this outpost alive longer than it had any right to be. I wanted them to see that. I inclined my head, as much gratitude as I could muster with my ribs on fire. Thank you, Captain. Cale managed a small, sad smile. Yes. Thank you. Arden grunted, uncomfortable with the sentiment, and slipped out. The door closed, leaving us in silence again. Cale turned back to me, her eyes glistening, her tail twitching anxiously. She curled onto the cot again, pressing against my side like she needed proof I was still there. And I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, holding her steady against me, even as the future cracked open beneath our feet. The infirmary emptied slowly as night stretched over the outpost. The medics dozed in shifts, their voices low, the smell of antiseptic lingering under the smoke still seeping from collapsed walls. I lay half-propped on the cot, bandages pulling at my ribs with every breath, Cale curled against me like she belonged there. Her ears twitched restlessly, golden eyes reflecting the lamp's dim glow. She hadn't spoken since Arden left, but her silence was louder than any of her teasing ever had been. Finally, she whispered, "They'll drag me back. You know that, don't you?" I tightened my arm around her shoulders. "Only if we let them." Her tail curled across my leg, hesitant, as though she wanted to believe me but couldn't quite. "You don't understand. My division, if they decide I'm compromised, I'll never see battle again. I'll be locked away, studied, dissected until nothing of me is left." I felt her body tremble against me, the tension she'd been carrying since the hunter first whispered her name. I ran my hand along her arm, steady strokes meant to ground her. "I won't let them take you apart. Not while I'm breathing." She turned her face up toward mine, searching my expression with eyes that were too raw to be disguised by banter. "You'd fight command?" "I'd fight anyone," I said simply. Her ears twitched, and she gave a shaky laugh. "Stubborn fool." "Yours," I reminded her. This time, she didn't argue. She only pressed closer, her tail looping tight around my waist as if to seal the vow. The following day, rumors spread like wildfire. Word of our strike on the Corps had traveled faster than Arden himself. Soldiers muttered that the human and vulpine pair had done what full platoons had failed to. They called Cale dangerous, unstoppable, and whispered in the same breath that she was cursed. She heard it all, her ears flicking with each mention. Her smile was razor-thin when she walked beside me in the yard, tail swishing like a warning. "They'll never let us stay together," she said under her breath. "To them, I'm a risk, and you're just the humans stupid enough to stand too close." I caught her wrist, pulling her to a stop near the shattered remains of the wall. Dust blew across the flats, painting the horizon in pale gray. "Then we don't give them the chance." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said, voice low, "when the rotation comes, we don't go where they send us. We go where we choose." Her ears shot upright. "You'd desert?" "I'd rather be called a deserter than watch them tear you apart in a lab." She stared at me, the wind tugging her braid, her tail frozen mid-flick. For a long moment, I thought she'd laugh at the absurdity. Instead, her lips curved into the smallest, most dangerous smile I'd seen yet. "Maybe you're more vulpine than I thought, soldier boy." That night, she slipped into my cot without a word, curling against me like the decision was already made. Her tail coiled snug around us both, her head resting on my chest where my heartbeat thudded steady against her ear. "You'll regret this," she murmured. "Leaving your people. Choosing me." I stroked her hair, letting silence stretch before answering. "The only thing I'd regret is letting them take you away." Her tail tightened, her breath shuddering out against my chest. "Then promise me." "I promise." Cale shifted, her golden eyes glinting in the dark, her smile sharp but trembling at the edges. "Then wherever we go, you're mine. Always." 2 days later, rotation orders arrived. Arden delivered them himself, his expression unreadable as he set the packet on the desk beside my cot. "Transfer's official," he said. "Vera to her division. Hold back to the next human garrison. Departure in 3 days." Cale's ears flattened, tail bristling behind her. She opened her mouth, but I caught her hand before the words could spill out. Understood, Captain, I said evenly. Arden's eyes flicked between us, suspicion clear. But he only grunted. For what it's worth, I still think Command's making a mistake. He turned and left, the door creaking shut behind him. Kale jerked her hand free, glaring at me. Why didn't you fight him? Because, I said, leaning closer, voice low enough only she could hear. We're not leaving the way they expect. Her ears twitched, and then, slowly, her tail brushed against mine, a conspirator's grin spreading across her face. Good, she whispered. Because I wasn't going without you anyway. 3 days. That was all the time left before the outpost rotation. 3 days before Command thought they'd split us apart. And 3 days before Kale and I would vanish into the wasteland, soldier and foxgirl, deserters by their terms, but free by ours. The war wasn't done with us. But we were done letting others decide how we'd fight it. The night we chose to leave, the desert was quiet. No alarms, no drones, no hunter's shadow, just the whisper of wind over sand and the faint glow of stars above. Kale stood with me at the edge of the outpost, her ears flicking restlessly beneath the hood she'd stolen from the supply lockers. Her tail swayed, brushing my leg as though it couldn't decide between excitement and fear. You know, she murmured, voice soft. If we walk past that line, there's no coming back. I adjusted the pack on my shoulders, watching the towers of Thalros 9 fade behind us, jagged and broken against the horizon. There's nothing to come back to. She turned, her golden eyes searching mine. For once, there was no teasing smirk, no sly remark. Just honesty, sharp and unguarded. You really mean it? I reached out, cupping her cheek gently, feeling the warmth of her skin under my palm. I chose you the moment I swore I wouldn't let them take you. Her ears tilted back, a soft flush warming her face. Then her tail curled around my waist, pulling me closer until her forehead rested against mine. Stubborn fool, she whispered, but her smile curved tender. Yours, I murmured. For a long moment, the war, the orders, the weight of everything beyond us, all of it faded. There was only the desert wind, the stars above, and her heartbeat pressed against my chest. She leaned up, brushing her lips against mine, not teasing this time, not testing, but claiming. When she pulled back, her smile was fierce. Then let's vanish together, soldier boy. Hand in hand, tail and boot stepped side by side, we walked into the endless flats. Behind us, the outpost shrank into shadow. Ahead, the desert stretched wide, a canvas of danger and freedom. Whatever came next, raiders, drones, Command itself, we would face it as one. And as the night swallowed us whole, Kale's tail tightened around my arm, her voice a soft vow carried on the wind. You're mine now. Always. That's the end of part 2. What did you think? Did you enjoy Darius and Kale's journey, and do you want to see a part 3, following them as fugitives beyond the outpost walls? Let me know in the comments. And remember, if you missed part 1, I've got it linked right here, so you can go back and start from the beginning. If you want to support the channel and see more stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It really helps keep these stories alive.